Ice Cube by Menaha Malik. There's once an ice cube named Crystal. Crystal always wanted to go up to space and experience zero gravity, but she also wanted to change state because being a solid was too confined. So one day, she had a crazy idea of how to change state. Crystal didn't like being 0 degrees. The temperature of what she was, an ice cube, was 0 degrees, the freezing point of water. Crystal took a rocket and flew into space. There she could go to different planets, lose or gain energy, and change into a different state of matter. As a solid, there really wasn't much to do. Crystal had a definite shape and volume, therefore her molecules only vibrated, leaving her with nothing to do than sit there, confined. Molecules in solids have very little intermolecular distance. They have very little and small amounts of space to move around. Crystal flew up to space, wanting to land on Venus, the planet with the hottest surface temperature. Crystal thought that if she came out of the rocket on Venus, she'd be given thermal energy to change state. On Venus, Crystal now steps out of the rocket. Once she lands on the planet Venus's surface, Crystal gains more thermal energy and turns into the second state of matter, a liquid. Crystal was now going into the melting point. She was going through the phase change called melting. From a solid, Crystal was transforming into a liquid. Now she had an indefinite shape, but definite volume. Liquids always take the shape of their container. Molecules inside of liquids are therefore a little more than solids. They are able to slide past each other and therefore have a little more space to move around, but are still confined. Now as a liquid that takes the shape of her container, Crystal has a little more freedom inside of her because the molecules inside of her are able to slide past each other. Her intermolecular distance is therefore a little more than solids, but her temperature is still 0 degrees because she is still in the freezing point. Crystal is still unhappy of how much freedom she has inside of her, so she plans to go to Mercury, the planet with the second hottest surface temperature, and maybe she could change state again. In her rocket, Crystal lands on Mercury. In the state of a liquid, she takes the shape of her container. Crystal steps out and onto Mercury. All the thermal energy that is given to her transforms her into a gas. Crystal is now going through the boiling point because of all the thermal energy given to her transformed her from a liquid to a gas. Since ice is a form of water, her temperature is now increased from 0 degrees Celsius to 100 degrees Celsius. Now it's a gas. She has an indefinite shape and indefinite volume, which causes her molecules to be spaced out as much as possible. Now as a gas, Crystal's molecules can take up as much space as possible. Her molecules can now move around freely. The intermolecular distance in a gas is the most compared to the other states of matter, like solids and liquids. Another word for turning into a gas from liquid is called vaporization. Neither do gases stay put where they are or take the shape of their container. Gases move freely. Because of all the thermal energy Venus and Mercury had given her, she was now a gas and was free. From a solid, she had turned into a liquid, and from a liquid she had turned into a gas. She had gone through the phase change called evaporation. What was she going to do next? When a gas moves, it moves freely. So unexpectedly, Crystal came near to Neptune, the coldest planet of surface temperature, and then lost so much thermal energy that she turned back into a liquid. The phase change Crystal now going through is called condensation. Now, her molecules can't move around freely. Again, now she has to take the shape of her container. Crystal is now no longer 100 degrees Celsius. As a liquid, she decides to just turn back into a solid and go back to normal. She decides that since Uranus has the second coldest surface temperature, she can go there, lose as much thermal energy as possible, and transform back into a solid, with tightly packed molecules all over again. On Venus, the coldness affects Crystal so much that she loses thermal energy and transforms back into a solid. She's going through the freezing point because from a liquid she's turning into a solid. When a liquid loses energy, that phase change is called freezing. Now our molecules can only vibrate side to side, up and down.